Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the uh, All Star Wrestling Review Series for the 31st of May, 1980. Loving the 1980 stuff. We're going to have probably 150 of these in total by the time the whole series is done, at least what's up on the Peacock Network. In any event, ending the spring and headed headlong into the summer over the next couple of weeks. Summer 1980 is the Shea Stadium show. I actually should see if Showdown at Shea is on the network anywhere. I don't know, honestly. I haven't seen it in many years since my tape trading years, about, I don't know, 20 years ago these days. Anyway, just interested to see it again for the first time with fresh eyes. Anyhow, so we open with Rick McGraw pinning Jose Estrada 709 with a head scissors. Head scissors as a pinfall just seems really odd in this day and age, but remember, headbutts, body slams, head scissors, and all points in between can be finishing maneuvers. Of course, McGraw had been pretty heavily promoted, and Estrada is a guy that they kind of put in there with new guys just to test them, see what they can do. Estrada, a guy that gets a good bit out of things, and ultimately, um, kind of there. And um, anyhow, kind of see around um, the 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 regularness of it. Estrada manages a headlock, cranking on the man for several minutes. Match goes longer than it needs to go. Good fire from McGraw when he decides to fire up, although might be a little too long. Match is a little slow in plotting in spots. Of course, 40 years ago that would be allowed, whereas now people would cry in the corner that Dave Meltzer is going to give it 5 stars and a Tootsie Roll. But anyhow, um, you know, arm bars and the like, and we kind of see um, finally Estrada get a bit of a leverage point here. Punch kick, basic stuff. Doesn't get all he wants on it, but drops a bit of a knee, also kicking at his man. But we eventually see quick draw Rick McGraw getting the victory in just about as many weeks here. We will move along to our next contest, which happens to be, in this particular case, the Pedro Morales Ron Shaw submission via Boston Crab 442. Once again, Pedro Morales back. Seem like they are looking to get as much out of him as they can as a returning champion. Of course, his world championship run about 7 years before, and now with an Intercontinental title. Maybe that was the idea, bringing him back to add prestige to the Intercontinental Championship, give him a tag team run because he had been such a major star and had been away for a while. Maybe that was the idea at the time. Still trying to wrap my head around the idea of him being treated with the level of reverence that he was, other than the fact that he was a champion and that was the main deal. Needless to say, Ron Shaw, relatively new guy, gets taken down. Ride time by Morales is pretty persistent. I wouldn't necessarily say aggressive, but it's persistent to say the very least. Um, Arm bars and the like um, by Morales. Doesn't get everything he wants on that. Does get some of what he needs off of it, and bit more brawling from Shaw. Shaw has a good body on him. Little pale in skin color, which I think might have hurt him. I mean, he's got the size and basic wrestling ability, but eventually Pedro Morales gets him with a um, Boston Crab victory. And then we see, a promo from Pat Patterson, former Intercontinental Champion, still kind of upset and salty about wanting a tag partner, but also salty about loving the fans. Kind of trails off into talking about the alliance at the end of the promo, and he gets cut off there. Not sure where that was going, and I don't know that Bruno knew where it was going either. Anyway, Pat Patterson as the former Intercontinental Champion is a pretty big deal. Not exactly the big deal that some people would regard him as before, or during, let's say, the Slaughter feud, but he manages to do what he can there, and his opponent for the moment is none other than Johnny Rodz, 751, with a rollover pinfall. Again, longer matches by default. I mean, a 8 minute match isn't really a long match, but in comparison to the 3 and 4 minute matches we get these days, certainly a double or triple attention span for fans of that time period. And I think people just actually cared about things being more competitive looking. Patterson manages to, take his man around, lead his man around. Patterson, probably one of the better guys that a whole lot of footage in his prime doesn't exist of. Takes his man out and down, and lots of punch kick there. And again, uh, kind of seeing a bit of a brawl and a bit of kind of taking Rod's taking him to the outside. Uh, Patterson tries to get the Boston Crab, doesn't get what he wants on the hold. They go to the outside again. Patterson goes back to work on the leg, actually tries to get a modified figure four, among other things, and eventually gets a roll through and a roll over and roll up in order to get the victory. Patterson, I don't know that him having this much challenge from a Johnny Rods is necessarily good for business at the time. However, if Rods is going to go on the road and have compelling house show matches, first, second, third match every night, maybe giving him that opportunity is a good idea from that perspective. Tag team champions, Wild Samoans, uh, defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan, although not yet known as Hacksaw, and Frank Williams, 752, off of pins Williams with a Samoan drop. Imagine Hacksaw before the Mid-South major run, before his WWF and WCW and multi-year Hall of Fame runs across the world, being in a situation of being an enhancement talent at the time. Duggan gets forced back into the corner and has good fire, but obviously here to put over the Samoans. Samoans get caught with a shoulder tackle and other basic things. Duggan does the majority of selling because Williams is the more known of the two, which means that him taking body slams, punches, kicks, and headbutts from the Samoans more believable. Williams comes in off the, I guess you'd say, kind of a hot tag, although gets bonked to the outside. Double headbutts and thrust punches through the ropes and the like. I mean, it's pretty assertive, aggressive. The idea there that the Samoans are a dominant tag team is very clear in this time frame. Then we go to the final match of the day, which happens to be Ken Patera, your Intercontinental Champion. Back-to-back championship, maybe not defenses, but back-to-back champion matches for the champions. Ken Patera with the Grand Wizard, defeating Steve King with submission. Swinging full Nelson 320. Odd that they would do a few weeks later after King was put on a stretcher. Odd that they would do this match again. Not necessarily sure I agree with the philosophy of that, but punch kick, suplex, and some really basic stuff there as it relates to kind of moving things forward by Ken Patera. Patera, obviously a guy as the Intercontinental Champion, second most influential person probably in the territory at the time, just by default of having the championship, but useful nonetheless, as having that championship gives him a certain level of credibility that he may not have under other circumstances. Needless to say, that is there and ultimately leading to a good victory for the Intercontinental Champion, who really is kind of committed to the process, I guess you'd say, of trying to find a place to belong and an identity to be and to know and to do and to see under any circumstances. So that will close us for today. We'll be back starting June in Two Shakes of a Lamb's Tail.